All right, friends and family, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023, the first episode of This Week in Real Estate. Let's talk a little bit about perspective, right? We say we're having a bad day until we drive by a couple homeless people on the street and our perspective changes a little bit. And suddenly we feel okay for ourselves. We might complain or whine that we don't have enough stuff right up until we sip on our $4 cup of coffee, and then suddenly our perspective changes a little bit. As we walk into our house from the rain and the heater blows and warms us and dries our clothes, our perspectives shift a little bit. So I want to talk to you about two things today. Perspective on the market, not bad or good, just perspective. And then the other thing I want to talk to you about is a baseline or your market report, which you can hold now. So you can, as the market trends up and down, which it will do both over the next 12 months, what is the perspective of that for your house and whatever you're looking to do this year in real estate, right? So let's jump right into it. You don't want to see that. That's just my work. You want to see this. So this is the median sales price, not average, but the median sales price for the month of December 2022. This is compared, right? All this data right here is compared to 2021. So you'll notice the entire MLS is down 2.7. The collective combination from Glendora to Rancho is down 2%. Prices in the city of Glendora are down 8%. Now, everyone's going to say, well, of course they are. Whatever, that's fine, right? But what's interesting, I love about this is, yes, we have felt the pain of prices dropping. Here we go. It's always good to know the peaks and the valleys, right? Here's the height of the real estate market. See, we forget how long we've actually been running. If we look at this graph, we've been upticking since 2012, right? Yeah, I think 2012, we just started climbing right since then. So a decade we've been climbing. Bottom of the market, some would argue 2010, 2009, right around here. So we climb out May 2022, height of the market. Okay, so now the market's dropping, right? Dropping from what is the question? Well, we know we're down year over year, a couple of percentages, but here's what's going to scare you. So I want you to realize something. If we had to sell in COVID, March of 2020, right? We stopped. Prices dipped for 2 weeks, held flat, started to climb towards the end of April. So if we look at April's numbers, April of 2020, right, here's what I want you to get perspective on. Now, mind you, we've been climbing incredible. So February of 2020, people's minds were blowing how much they could get for their houses. And look at how less that is, 670 versus 760. It's $100,000, right? It's 90, but you get it. In Glendora to Rancho, we're at 535 versus 676. It's $130,000, right? The entire MLS is up. Give me the math really quick. 30, 55, $155,000. So think about this level of increase from March of 2020. April, some would argue, went down, which it did, and we've been climbing since then. So we legitimately have a healthy amount of percentage in reduction in pricing that the market can withstand and still be at a peak of 2020, which was higher than it had been, right? So from a perspective, look, sellers, I'm a homeowner too. Nobody likes to lose equity, right? But here's what's funny. So buyers, you're going to have to be creative. Why is that? Because it's not a buyer's market. Just because the sellers are taking a little hit, they're not taking a hit. We're not down 25%, right? Look at this inventory. This is December's inventory, 1.8 months, 1.7 months, 2.1 months. This is record low sellers inventory. Look at how low it is, right? I mean, track this back, how far back you want to go. And we're still in the twos. Okay, we got fours and threes right here, 2019. So when you hear, let me just put this in a 5-year graph so you can see what I'm talking about. When we're talking about months supply, look, it started to rise up a little bit and people got a little nervous September. October. Oh, but look at that. Then it started falling back down again. Now, this is because people will say, oh, houses don't sell in November and December. That's not true, right? If you have an active home that is listed for sale in those months, you have a very serious seller. And if you're a very serious buyer, it's a great time to hunt and houses sell. We've put houses in escrow and we've closed escrows in those 2 months. That's a real thing. And so you have an excellent opportunity if you're a buyer right now to get in the mix because not every seller and not every buyer is reading the numbers because not every broker is out there communicating what that means. So will you get a better deal on price? You're going to get a healthy discount on price, right? Some cities are down 18% over the last 3-4 months. That's a healthy discount on price. But the inventory isn't there yet where you can go off from another 100,000 below, because that's dropping it down to 2020 pricing, and the market just isn't there because the inventory tells us that in 2 months, if no other houses came on the market, everything would be sold. In the entire MLS, there won't be another house for sale in less than 2 months. That's a wicked seller's market. Now, here's what I find interesting. Normally, when we have a low supply, our days on market are quick. But here's what's interesting. Prices, right? 3 things. This is when you'll start to see, where 2 of the 3 things that will start to shift this market. 1, sales prices is steadily declining, which that's been happening. 2, let's look at our days on market. They've been increasing. Look at this, tick, 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 right? So sellers are like, and buyers are like, yeah, if I just wait, the prices are going to keep coming down, right? But then they're selling. So look at this now. Now look at this plateau. November, right? December, they went up a little bit. Actually, Glendora dropped. Glendora to Rancho only went up by a day, right? And they dropped from October to November, days on market. So here's what I want you to see. Perspective. We talked about perspective, right? So when you talk perspective, 22 days on market for a house to sell, still in a seller's market, right? When you get into that 45-day market, that 45 days on the market, that's when you start talking about a healthy, normal market. So normally when you see days on market go up and you see the sales price start to decline, you'll also see month supply of inventory start to climb. Now, it did it in March, April, and May, but look at that. We're still crazy low, right? Even we're still below 3 months supply. It's incredible what's happening in the market right now. So typically, why is that? Well, inflation went bonkers, which means interest rates went with it. So what we had is unaffordability. It just became expensive to buy a house. And so even though prices came down, interest rates didn't come down enough to make housing affordable, right? If sellers were going to sell and downsize, or sellers were going to sell and move out of state, sellers who might have refinanced over the last couple of years with record low interest rates, one more reason you want to be a homeowner, buy the house today. So then when we get record low interest rates again, right? Some sellers are sitting in a 2.5% interest rate. Some are in the 3s. And they're like, hey man, you want me to sell my house, take my equity and go get a 6 or 7% interest rate, 5 or 6. Now having a conversation about interest rates is a whole nother conversation, because then the national average over time is in the 6s. Like, we're still historic low in the 4s and 5s. Great opportunity if you're a buyer to ask the seller to buy down your interest rate, get you from a 5.5 into a 4.5 or into a 4 3/4. So now you still have a historically low rate. You've taken advantage of the price reduction. See, it's perspective. It's understanding the math, where you can, as a buyer, you can write a very strong offer to a seller that's not disrespectful, that gets your interest rates and your payments where you want it. So now you're getting the house you want. Sellers, this time, yep, you've lost some equity. It happens, right? We always try to buy low and sell high. We try to hit the peak of the peak. I showed you when it was, May of 2022. Sorry you missed it, right? Might we see an uptick in pricing February, March, April, May, that sort of selling season? I could see that happening, especially if inflation starts to come back down, we get the interest rates back into the 5s. I could see actually a little uptick in home values first quarter, start of the second quarter. That could be a very real thing. So buyers buy today. Sellers, you've already missed the gravy train, right? So now the question is, on the sales price, how much more of the gravy train do you want to miss? That's the question for you. Now, I said I want to talk about 2 things, perspective and a baseline, right? So what is a baseline? A baseline is saying, where is your house? Forgive me for that. Where is your house on here? Because you might say, hey, I'm thinking about selling in June, but if house prices drop another 3%, 2%, or they get to this number, then I'm going to have to sell earlier than August, right? If that's the case, what are you doing to track it? This is why we have 2 options. You can track an entire city, or you can track a very specific neighborhood in your house, for instance, and the reports look just a little bit different. So this is rolling 30-day data. So every day it's fresh. If tomorrow 100 houses sell, tomorrow this information will change. So it's the most accurate up-to-date data you can get in tracking the market. So if you scroll in here, look, it'll tell you out of 100, the market temperature right now is a 77, still a great seller's market, right? You can see that 55 new homes in the last 30 days have gone on the market, 60 have closed. Here's the median price, 24 days on market. A lot of that stuff I just showed you on the graph, but that's stuff that I have access to. This is how I get you the information. Now you can look in here and say, okay, here's the average list price, average days on market, right? Because this compares the city versus your neighborhood. See that? Two very different things. You want to know what's going on in the city, but really what you want to know is how's it affecting your house? How's it affecting your neighborhood? Then you can scroll down, you can get a couple little snapshots. You can see around the area, right? You can then go and say, hey, why is 849 and 775 when everything else is in the 1 points? What's this 849 over on Dalton? Oh, and you can click through, you can look through the photographs. You can say, oh, here's a description, all of the bennies. You got questions, you can reach out and contact us, right? What does that look like? So a couple of things you're going to want to think about. Perspective, right? New year, new you, all that sort of good stuff. 2023, great real estate market. Now you know you've missed the gravy train. Sellers, there's still an opportunity to sell in the record highs, right? This would be the time. Call us and we can walk you through that. If you don't have a market report, call me, text me, reply to this email, wherever you're watching it on social media, and let's get you set up on a market report. If you're thinking about buying a home, but you're not really sure how to structure your offer, you want to make sure you're in a position to win. If you're a veteran, give me a call. Let's talk about assumable VA loans right now. Unbelievable market. So this week in real estate, it's the start of a new year. I know we went a little bit longer. I try to keep you 5 to 7 minutes, but we have to shift our perspective. Right? If all we stay in is negative, 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 then all you're going to see is the decline in value. And you're going to say, oh, it's terrible. Buyers, all you're going to see is an increase in interest rates. Oh, it's terrible. And yet people are still going to continue to create wealth by buying and selling real estate. And you're going to get left on the sideline. Don't do that. Easy enough. What are you tracking? What's your baseline? Get a market report. Even look, market reports aren't just for homeowners. Right? If you're thinking about buying in a specific neighborhood and get that neighborhood on a market report and start watching it. So you can start tracking inventory versus price. You can start seeing city over the neighborhood and saying, okay, let's start getting in balance and let's strike. All right. I can talk about this all day, every day. You're valued, you're loved, you're appreciated. We'll see you next week. Have a great have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend. Doing an open house. All that information's below. If you're out and about in Walnut, come by and say hi. Say hi, hello, say hi. Come by and say hello at our open house in Walnut. It's 20540 Varsity Drive. Information's below. Have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon.